When the apocalypse hits and your neighbor's fancy Tesla becomes a very expensive paperweight, guess what's still running? That's right, the beat-up truck you could have bought for the price of a used iPhone. While billionaires are building bunkers, smart preppers know the real secret to surviving Doomsday isn't spending a fortune, it's spending smart. Today, we're counting down 7 budget-friendly trucks that'll keep you alive when everything else fails. And trust me, number 3 is so tough, even zombies would give it a thumbs up. If they still had thumbs. Let's roll.
Kicking off our survival lineup at number 7, we've got a truck that most people completely overlook, and that's exactly why it's brilliant for the end times, the Mazda B3000. Now I know what you're thinking, a Mazda truck? Isn't that the brand my aunt drives to her book club? Well, hold on to your gas masks because this underdog is hiding a secret weapon that'll make you reconsider everything. Here's the thing nobody tells you about the B3000. It's basically a Ford Ranger wearing a tuxedo. Back in the 90s and early 2000s, Mazda and Ford had this beautiful partnership going on, which means under that Mazda badge, you're getting Ford's legendary Vulcan V6 engine and the same chassis that made the Ranger an absolute workhorse. It's like buying a Rolex at Timex prices, except this Rolex can tow your survival bunker. The 3.0-liter engine in this beast is bulletproof, and I mean that almost literally. These motors are known for running well past 250,000 miles with nothing more than basic maintenance. We're talking oil changes and the occasional prayer to the truck gods. In a doomsday scenario, you don't want something complicated with turbochargers and computers that need a PhD to diagnose. You want simple, proven, and tough as nails. The B3000 delivers that in spades. Now let's talk money, because your survival budget probably includes things like food, water, and ammunition, not a $60,000 truck payment. You can snag a clean B3000 for anywhere between $3,000 to $7,000. That's less than a decent used jet ski. And here's the beautiful part. Because everyone's out there hunting for Tacomas and Frontiers, the B3000 flies completely under the radar. Low demand equals low prices, and low prices means more cash for supplies. The four-wheel drive models are absolutely unstoppable in rough terrain. We're talking proper off-road capability, with a transfer case that'll get you through mud, snow, and whatever post-apocalyptic landscape you're navigating. The ground clearance isn't going to win any rock crawling competitions, but it's more than enough to handle abandoned highways and forest trails when you're making your escape from the zombie hordes. Parts availability is where this truck really shines. Since it shares so much DNA with the Ford Ranger, you've got access to one of the largest part networks in North America. Every junkyard, every auto parts store, every shade tree mechanic knows these components inside and out. When civilization collapses and AutoZone isn't doing next-day delivery anymore, you'll be raiding old Rangers for parts like you're shopping at an apocalyptic IKEA. The bed size is perfect for the Doomsday Prepper too. 6 feet of cargo space means you can load up your generator, water barrels, weapons cache, and still have room for that neighbor who said you were crazy for preparing. And speaking of crazy, the payload capacity of around 1,500 pounds means you can haul enough supplies to outlast the initial chaos without breaking a sweat or your suspension. Here's a pro tip that'll save your life someday. The manual transmission models are your best bet for long-term survival. Automatic transmissions are great for comfort, but when you're jury-rigging repairs in the wilderness with nothing but duct tape and determination, a simple 5-speed manual is infinitely easier to fix or even push start if your battery dies. Plus, you get better fuel economy, and when gas stations are abandoned and every drop of fuel is precious, those extra miles per gallon could literally be the difference between making it to safety or becoming a cautionary tale. The B3000 isn't flashy, it won't turn heads at the mall, and your friends might actually laugh when you show up in one. But when the grid goes down and their finance to the hilt luxury trucks are nothing but lawn ornaments, you'll be cruising past in your humble Mazda with a smile on your face and supplies in the bed. Sometimes the best survival tool is the one nobody saw coming, and that's exactly what makes the B3000 a solid choice for your doomsday garage.
Moving up to number 6, we need to talk about the truck that's literally become a legend in war zones, disaster areas, and the absolute worst conditions planet Earth can throw at it, the Toyota Hilux. Now, if you're watching from the States, you might be feeling a bit left out right now because Toyota decided Americans couldn't handle this level of indestructibility. But here's your loophole. Older models can be imported, or if you're willing to cross some borders when society collapses, well, they're everywhere else on the globe. Let me paint you a picture of just how ridiculous the Hilux's reputation is. Top Gear, the legendary British car show, once tried to kill one. They crashed it into a tree, submerged it in the ocean for 5 hours, set it on fire, hit it with a wrecking ball, and then placed it on top of a building they demolished. You know what happened? They gave it some basic tools, a bit of elbow grease, and the thing fired right up. If that doesn't scream Doomsday vehicle, I don't know what does. This truck has survived more assassination attempts than a Bond villain. The Hilux has earned its stripes in the harshest environments imaginable. We're talking the Australian outback, where temperatures swing from scorching hot to freezing cold. The deserts of the Middle East, where sandstorms turn everything else into expensive paperweights. Conflict zones where reliability isn't a luxury. It's the difference between life and death. There's a reason why you see these trucks in every documentary about remote expeditions or humanitarian missions. They simply refuse to quit. Under the hood, you're looking at Toyota's legendary diesel engines in most international markets. And these power plants are engineered with one philosophy: keep running no matter what. The older models feature the indestructible 22RE engine, while newer generations pack diesel options that can run on fuel so dirty you think twice about using it in your lawnmower. We're talking engines that laugh at poor maintenance, questionable fuel quality, and the kind of abuse that would make other trucks file for workers' compensation. Price-wise, here's where it gets interesting. In markets where the Hilux is common, think Australia, Southeast Asia, or South America, you can find older models in the $8,000 to $15,000 range. Yes, it's pricier than our Mazda, but you're paying for a truck that's basically achieved mythical status. Import one to North America, and you're looking at more money, sure, but consider this. When the apocalypse hits, resale value isn't exactly going to matter, is it? Plus, the 25-year import rule means older Hiluxes are completely legal to bring stateside. The four-wheel drive system on these machines is beautifully simple and virtually unbreakable. There's no fancy electronic wizardry that'll fry when an EMP hits. It's mechanical, it's straightforward, and it's been proven in conditions that would make a Rubicon owner cry. High and low range, lockable differentials on many models, and ground clearance that'll get you over obstacles that have stopped lesser vehicles dead in their tracks. Here's something that'll blow your mind. Hiluxes routinely hit 300,000, 400,000, even 500,000 miles without major engine work. There are documented cases of these trucks running for over 1 million miles with nothing more than regular oil changes and basic maintenance. That's not truck ownership, that's a generational heirloom. Your grandkids could inherit this thing and still be driving it through the nuclear winter. The cargo bed might seem modest compared to American full-size trucks, but it's perfectly sized for efficiency and capability. You can load up everything you need for long-term survival without the truck guzzling fuel like it's going out of style. And speaking of fuel economy, the diesel models will stretch a tank of fuel further than most people can walk in a day. When every gas station is a dried-up memory, that efficiency becomes your lifeline. Parts availability is where the Hilux really flexes its global dominance. This truck is sold in over 180 countries. That means no matter where you end up in your doomsday travels, there's probably a junkyard, a mechanic, or some guy in the shed who knows how to keep a Hilux running. It's the closest thing the automotive world has to a universal language. The Toyota Hilux isn't just a truck, it's a survival statement. It's the vehicle that tells the apocalypse, I've seen worse. Sure, it might cost you a bit more up front, and yes, getting one might require some creative importing, but when you're building your end-of-the-world fleet, sometimes you need the vehicle that's already survived multiple ends of multiple worlds.
Sliding into the number 5 spot, we've got America's best-selling vehicle for over 4 decades running, the Ford F-150. Now, I can already hear the groans from the truck purists saying this is too obvious, too mainstream, too boring. But let me tell you something. There's a reason why one of these rolls off the lot every 30 seconds. When millions of people trust their livelihoods, families, and daily survival to the same truck, you're not looking at hype. You're looking at proven excellence on an absolutely massive scale. Here's the beautiful secret about the F-150 that makes it perfect for doomsday prep. They're literally everywhere. We're talking about a truck so common that you could throw a rock in any direction and probably hit 3 of them. And before you think that's a bad thing, let me explain why this is actually your biggest survival advantage. When the world goes sideways, rarity becomes your enemy. You don't want some exotic machine that needs special parts shipped from overseas. You want the truck that every junkyard, every garage, and every shade tree mechanic has seen 1,000 times. The sheer volume of F-150s on the road means parts availability is off the charts. Needed a transmission? There are probably 5 in the wrecking yard down the street. Alternator dies? Your neighbor's dead F-150 has a spare. Engine trouble? Take your pick from literally millions of donors. It's like having a nationwide insurance policy written in steel and aluminum. When society collapses and the supply chain becomes a distant memory, this parts abundance will be worth more than gold. Now let's talk about the generations you want to target for maximum survival value. The 9th generation F-150, running from 1992 to 1997, is an absolute tank. These trucks feature bulletproof inline-6 engines and V8s that were designed when over-engineering was still a thing. The 10th generation, from 1997 to 2004, brought us the legendary Triton V8s. And yes, some had spark plug issues, but those are well documented and easily fixed. Find one that's already had the work done, and you've got an engine that'll outlast civilization itself. You can grab these older generations for anywhere between $5,000 to $12,000. And honestly, that's a steal for what you're getting. The F-150's towing and payload capacity is where things get serious for preppers. Depending on the configuration, you're looking at towing capacities that can handle a massive trailer full of supplies, a camper that becomes your mobile bunker, or even another vehicle if you need to rescue someone. Payload numbers that let you stack the bed high with everything from water containers to ammunition crates. This isn't a truck for light work. This is a truck designed to haul America's entire workload, which translates perfectly to hauling your entire survival operation. Four-wheel drive F-150s are incredibly capable off-road machines, especially when you consider they weren't built to be rock crawlers or trail rigs. They were built to get work done in terrible conditions, which is exactly what you need when the roads are destroyed and you're navigating through abandoned cities or wilderness terrain. The suspension can take a beating, the frame is stout, and with some modest modifications like all-terrain tires, you've got a vehicle that'll go places that would surprise you. Here's something nobody thinks about until it's too late. Creature comforts matter in survival situations. The F-150, even older models, comes with spacious cabs that can sleep adults in a pinch, climate control that actually works, and enough room to live out of if you have to. When you're spending days or weeks on the move, that comfort isn't luxury. It's maintaining your sanity and physical health. A miserable survivor is a careless survivor. Fuel economy isn't going to win any awards here, let's be honest. But here's the trade-off. The fuel tank capacity on these trucks is generous, and the range you get from a full tank can cover serious distance. Plus, many F-150s can be converted to run on alternative fuels with some mechanical know-how. Propane conversions, for example, are well documented and relatively straightforward. When gasoline becomes scarce, having options keeps you mobile. The aftermarket support for the F-150 is absolutely insane. Want to lift it? There are 100 companies making kits. Need armor plating? Done. Want to install a winch, auxiliary fuel tanks, or a full survival setup? The options are endless and often cheaper than you'd expect because of the competition. This truck is basically a blank canvas for whatever doomsday scenario you're preparing for. The F-150 might not be exotic, it might not have the cult following a Hilux, and your survivalist friends might call it boring. But when the chips are down and you need a truck that's reliable, fixable with whatever's lying around, and capable enough to handle anything you throw at it, boring becomes brilliant. Sometimes the best apocalypse vehicle is the one that's already survived 40 years of everyday apocalypses in driveways across the continent.
Roaring into the number 4 position, we've got the truck that refuses to apologize for anything, the Dodge Ram 1500. Now, Rams have a bit of a reputation for being the wild child of the truck world, and honestly, that's exactly what makes them perfect when civilization decides to take a permanent vacation. While other trucks are playing it safe, the Ram showed up to the apocalypse with a Hemi under the hood and an attitude that says, let's see what this thing can really do.
Let's address the elephant in the room right away. Dodge reliability has been the butt of jokes for decades. You've heard them all. Found on road dead? Wait, that's Ford. Fix it again, Tony? No, that's Fiat. Okay, so maybe Dodge escaped the acronym curse, but the reputation for electrical gremlins and transmission quirks has followed these trucks around like a shadow. But here's the plot twist nobody sees coming. Those older Ram 1500s from the mid-90s to early 2000s are actually built like brick houses, and the issues that plague newer models haven't caught up with the simpler, more mechanical generations yet. The second-generation Ram, running from 1994 to 2001, is where you want to focus your doomsday shopping. These trucks were designed during an era when Dodge was genuinely trying to prove something. The Magnum V8s in these models are spectacularly robust. The 5.2-liter and 5.9-liter variants are known for taking abuse that would hospitalize other engines and just shrugging it off. We're talking engines that can run with questionable oil, tolerate overheating better than they should, and keep firing even when you've ignored every maintenance light on the dashboard for 6 months straight. Price-wise, the Ram 1500 hits that sweet spot of being affordable enough to not destroy your budget, but nice enough that you're not driving a complete disaster. You're looking at roughly $4,000 to $10,000 for solid examples from the golden era. They depreciated harder than the F-150 because of that reputation we talked about, which means smart buyers like you get to capitalize on everyone else's prejudice. Their loss is literally your survival gain. The interior space in these Rams is genuinely impressive. Dodge understood that trucks are often mobile offices, temporary homes, and everything in between. The club cab and quad cab configurations give you room to stretch out, to store gear, and even sleep somewhat comfortably when you're on the run. When you're living out of your vehicle during the collapse, that extra space transforms from a luxury into a legitimate survival asset. You can organize supplies, keep weapons accessible, and maintain some semblance of livable conditions. Now let's talk about what really sets the Ram apart. Raw capability that borders on ridiculous. The towing numbers on these trucks punch well above their price point. Hook up a trailer loaded with supplies, tools, fuel reserves, and backup equipment, and the Ram just digs in and hauls it without complaint. The suspension was designed for serious work, which means it handles heavy loads without turning into a bouncy mess. When you're evacuating with everything you own, that capability stops being a spec sheet number and starts being the difference between escaping and getting stuck. The four-wheel drive system on Rams is straightforward and effective. It's not fancy, it's not complicated, and when you're trying to repair it with limited tools in a hostile environment, simple is exactly what you want. The transfer case is durable, the front differential can take punishment, and the whole system was designed for people who actually use four-wheel drive for work, not just for show. Off-road performance might not match a dedicated rock crawler, but for navigating destroyed infrastructure, muddy trails, and snow-covered wastelands, it's more than adequate. Here's something that'll surprise you. Parts availability for these Rams is actually excellent. Because they share components with other Chrysler products, and because so many were sold, finding replacement parts is easier than you think. Junkyards are full of donor vehicles, and the aftermarket has embraced these trucks with everything from performance upgrades to reliability modifications. When something breaks, and let's be honest, in an apocalypse, everything breaks eventually, you'll have options for fixing it. Fuel economy is about what you'd expect from a full-size truck with a V8, which is to say it's not winning any efficiency awards. But the trade-off is power on demand. That Hemi or Magnum engine gives you acceleration when you need to get out of danger fast, torque for pulling heavy loads up terrible terrain, and the kind of mechanical simplicity that means you can actually work on it yourself. When the nearest mechanic is either dead or charging a month's worth of food for labor, being able to turn a wrench becomes invaluable. The Dodge Ram 1500 might not have the pristine reputation of a Toyota or the ubiquitous presence of an F-150, but it brings something equally important to the doomsday table: affordable capability with just enough attitude to match your survival mindset. It's the truck that doesn't care what anyone thinks, runs harder than it should, and refuses to quit even when logic says it probably should. Sometimes surviving the end of the world requires a vehicle that's just as stubborn as you are.
Cracking into our top 3, at number 3, and yes, I see the irony, we've got the most underestimated warrior in the mid-size truck segment, the Nissan Frontier. This is the truck that everyone walks past at the dealership, the one that gets overlooked in every best truck list, and the one that quietly outlasts everything else while nobody's paying attention. If trucks had personalities, the Frontier would be that quiet person at the party who turns out to be a black belt in 3 different martial arts. Unassuming on the outside, absolutely lethal when it counts. Here's what makes the Frontier borderline legendary for survival scenarios. Nissan kept the same basic platform running from 2005 all the way to 2021. That's 16 years of essentially the same truck. Now, most people hear that and think outdated or behind the times, but you know what that really means? It means Nissan spent 16 years perfecting a design, working out every possible bug and creating a parts ecosystem so vast that you could probably build 3 Frontiers from the spare parts lying around. When the world ends, you don't want cutting-edge technology, you want a truck that's had every possible failure already discovered and fixed. The engine sitting under that hood is Nissan's legendary VQ40DE V6, and this power plant is the mechanical equivalent of that old Nokia phone that survived everything. 4.0 liters of pure, unstressed reliability. This engine makes 261 horsepower, which is plenty for any survival situation you're going to encounter, and it does it while barely breaking a sweat. The VQ series engines have been in production since the 90s across multiple Nissan and Infiniti models, which means they've been tested in every climate, every condition, and every possible abuse scenario. These engines routinely hit 300,000 miles without major issues. Some owners report 500,000 miles with nothing more than oil changes and the occasional timing chain. That's not maintenance, that's basically neglect with good results. Price-wise, the Frontier is where value meets capability in perfect harmony. Because everyone's been sleeping on these trucks for years, you can find excellent examples from the mid-2000s to early 2010s for anywhere between $8,000 to $14,000. That's Tacoma performance at Tacoma minus $5,000 pricing. The market hasn't caught up to how good these trucks actually are, which means right now you're getting in on the ground floor of what will eventually be recognized as one of the best value propositions in survival vehicles. The off-road capability of the Frontier is seriously impressive, especially the Pro 4X models. These come equipped with Bilstein shocks, electronic locking rear differential, skid plates protecting vital components, and hill descent control. It's basically a turnkey off-road machine right from the factory. The approach and departure angles are aggressive enough to handle serious terrain, and the ground clearance means you're not getting hung up on obstacles that would stop lesser vehicles. When the roads are gone and you're navigating through whatever hellscape remains, the Frontier just keeps churning forward. Let's talk about something nobody mentions but absolutely matters. The 5-speed automatic transmission in these trucks is bulletproof. It's not fancy, it doesn't have 9 speeds or CVT nonsense that'll explode if you look at it wrong. It's a simple, robust, proven transmission that shifts when it should and keeps power flowing to the wheels without drama. In a world where most modern automatics are ticking time bombs of complexity, this transmission is refreshingly straightforward. And if you find one with the 6-speed manual, even better. You've got complete control and virtually nothing that can go wrong electronically. The bed size on the Frontier is perfectly sized for serious work, without being so massive that you're wasting fuel hauling air. 5 feet of usable cargo space with a payload capacity around 1,400 pounds means you can load up supplies, equipment, weapons, and survival gear without maxing out the suspension. The UtiliTrack bed channel system in many models gives you infinite tie-down configurations, which becomes crucial when you're securing at regular loads or need to organize your mobile survival cache efficiently. Here's a survival feature that's pure genius. The Frontier is small enough to be nimble. When you're navigating through abandoned cities, tight forest trails, or need to make quick maneuvers to avoid danger, that mid-size footprint becomes a tactical advantage. You're not piloting an aircraft carrier through narrow spaces. You can actually fit through gaps, make tight turns, and park in spots that full-size trucks would struggle with. Maneuverability in a crisis situation can literally save your life. Fuel economy on the Frontier is respectable for what you're getting. The V6 returns somewhere in the ballpark of 15 to 19 miles per gallon depending on how you drive it, which is solid for a capable four-wheel drive truck. The fuel tank holds 21 gallons, giving you serious range between fill-ups. When gas stations are abandoned and every gallon counts, that efficiency combined with decent range means you can cover more ground before needing to scavenge for fuel. Parts availability is better than you'd expect because Nissan sold these trucks globally under different names, Navara, in international markets, which means the parts network extends far beyond North America. The aftermarket has also embraced the frontier with lift kits, armor, bumpers, and every conceivable upgrade you might need. And because it shares components with other Nissan vehicles, cross-compatibility gives you even more options when you're hunting for replacement parts. The Nissan Frontier is proof that sometimes the best survival tool is the one everyone else ignored. While everyone was paying premium prices for Tacomas and obsessing over F-150s, the Frontier was quietly building a reputation among those who actually use their trucks for real work. It's reliable without being boring, capable without being complicated, and affordable without feeling cheap. When the world falls apart, you'll be glad you chose the truck that nobody saw coming.
Rolling into the runner-up position at number 2, we need to give proper respect to the truck that's been America's workhorse sidekick for generations, the Chevrolet Silverado. Now, I know some of you are thinking this is just going to be an F-150 clone discussion, but hold on, because the Silverado brings some unique advantages to the apocalypse that deserve serious attention. This is the truck that's been hauling construction materials, towing horse trailers, and surviving rural America for decades, often under conditions that would make a pampered crossover file for early retirement. The Silverado's heritage runs deep, and when we're talking survival vehicles, that history matters more than flashy marketing campaigns. General Motors has been building these trucks since 1999, when the Silverado name officially took over from the C/K series. But really, this lineage goes back much further. What that means for you is generational refinement. Every weak point has been identified, every flaw has been addressed, and every component has been tested by millions of owners doing actual hard work. When you're betting your life on a vehicle, you want one that's had its growing pains sorted out by the time you get behind the wheel. Let's dive into the generations that make the most sense for budget-conscious survivalists. The first generation GMT 800 platform, running from 1999 to 2007, is an absolute workhorse. These trucks feature some of the most reliable V8 engines GM ever produced, the Vortec 4800, 5300, and 6000 series. The 5.3-liter V8 is particularly legendary. This engine has powered everything from work trucks to police vehicles to emergency response units, and it does so with a combination of power and durability that's genuinely impressive. We're talking engines that regularly exceed 300,000 miles with routine maintenance. The iron block construction means they can tolerate abuse, overheating, and the kind of neglect that would kill more sophisticated power plants. Here's where the Silverado gets interesting from a value perspective. You can find clean examples of these first and second generation trucks for roughly $6,000 to $13,000. The market is so flooded with them that prices stay reasonable, and unlike some trucks that appreciate because of cult following status, the Silverado remains accessible. That affordability means you can actually buy one, use it hard, and not lose sleep over depreciation because, let's face it, in a doomsday scenario, resale value isn't exactly a primary concern. The frame on these Silverados is legendarily stout. GM built these trucks with fully boxed frames starting with the GMT 800 platform, which means the structural integrity is serious business. This isn't some flimsy unibody construction that'll crumple if you look at it wrong. This is a proper ladder frame designed to carry heavy loads, absorb punishment, and keep going when the going gets rough. When you're navigating through destroyed infrastructure or need to ram through obstacles, and yes, sometimes you need to ram through obstacles, that frame becomes your best friend. Four-wheel drive Silverados are incredibly capable machines that punch well above their stock configuration. The transfer case is durable and straightforward, the suspension geometry is designed for real work rather than showroom looks, and the ground clearance is respectable right out of the box.
Add some proper off-road tires, maybe a modest lift if you're feeling ambitious, and you've got a truck that can traverse terrain that would leave lesser vehicles stranded. The traction control systems in later models are actually useful rather than intrusive, helping you maintain control in slippery or unstable conditions without feeling like the computer's fighting you. Now, let's address something that sets the Silverado apart from interior versatility and comfort. The crew cab configurations offer genuine room for a family or a full survival team. When you're on the move for extended periods, living partially out of your vehicle, that space transforms from convenience to necessity. You can store gear behind the seats, sleep somewhat comfortably when needed, and maintain organization in a way that's impossible in smaller trucks. The extended cab and crew cab models give you options depending on whether you're prioritizing bed length or passenger space. Towing capacity on these trucks is phenomenal. Depending on configuration and engine choice, you're looking at towing numbers that can handle massive trailers, campers that serve as mobile bases, or equipment that becomes crucial for rebuilding or fortifying your position. The Silverado was designed for people who actually tow heavy loads regularly, which means the cooling systems, transmission programming, and brake capacity are all spec'd for sustained heavy work rather than occasional light duty. Parts availability is where the Silverado truly dominates. Because these trucks share so many components with GM Sierra models, and because GM sold them in absolutely massive quantities, finding replacement parts is almost trivially easy. Every junkyard has donor vehicles, every parts store stocks common components, and the aftermarket is absolutely enormous. Want to upgrade your suspension? There are 50 companies making kits. Need armor or off-road bumpers? Take your pick. This parts abundance becomes a force multiplier for long-term survival, because you're not hunting for rare components, you're choosing from abundant options. Fuel economy is about what you'd expect from a full-size V8 truck, which means it's not winning any efficiency contests. But here's the trade-off that matters. When you need power right now, whether that's accelerating away from danger, powering through difficult terrain, or towing a heavy load up a steep grade, the Silverado delivers without hesitation. That reliability under stress is worth the fuel consumption, because being efficient doesn't matter if you're dead. The Chevrolet Silverado might live in the shadow of the F-150 in sales numbers, but for survival purposes, it's every bit as capable and often more affordable. It's the truck that construction crews beat on daily, that rural families depend on for generations, and that emergency services trust when lives are on the line. When the apocalypse comes calling, you want a truck with that kind of proven track record, and the Silverado delivers it without breaking your budget or your spirit.
And here we are, the moment you've been waiting for. The #1 budget truck built for doomsday survival, the Toyota Tundra. Now, if you've been paying attention throughout this list, you might have seen this coming, but let me tell you why this truck absolutely deserves the top spot. The Tundra is what happens when Toyota takes everything they learned from building the indestructible Hilux, adds American full-size muscle, and creates something that combines the best of both worlds. This isn't just a truck, it's a declaration of intent that says, we're ending this argument once and for all. Toyota built the first-generation Tundra starting in 2000, but it's the second generation, running from 2007 to 2021, that becomes your ultimate doomsday companion. And yes, you read that right, 14 years of essentially the same truck. While other manufacturers were constantly redesigning, adding complexity, and chasing trends, Toyota said, we're going to build one truck and make it absolutely perfect. That commitment to a proven platform means every single issue has been identified, addressed, and solved. There are no surprises left in these trucks because millions of miles of real-world testing have already exposed every possible weakness. Under the hood sits one of the most legendary engines Toyota ever produced, the 5.7-liter iForce V8. This engine makes 381 horsepower and 401 pound-feet of torque, which is more than enough power to handle anything the apocalypse throws at you. But raw numbers don't tell the whole story. This engine has been proven to run for over 400,000 miles routinely, with many documented cases exceeding 600,000 and even 700,000 miles. There's a famous Tundra that was driven over 1 million miles for a study, and when they tore down the engine to inspect it, Toyota engineers were shocked at how little wear they found. That's not just reliability, that's engineering immortality. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room: price. The Tundra isn't the cheapest truck on this list. You're looking at somewhere between $12,000 to $25,000 for solid examples from the second generation, depending on mileage, condition, and configuration. That's more than double what some of the other options cost. But here's what you need to understand. You're not just buying a truck, you're buying peace of mind wrapped in steel and backed by a reputation that's been earned through decades of simply refusing to fail. When your life depends on your vehicle starting every single time, that premium becomes an investment rather than an expense. The frame on the Tundra is absolutely overbuilt, in the best possible way. Toyota engineered this truck to handle abuse that would destroy lesser vehicles. The fully boxed frame is constructed with high-strength steel that can support massive loads and absorb incredible punishment. There's a reason why these trucks are favorites among overlanders who venture into the most remote places on Earth. They trust their lives to that frame, and it never lets them down. When you're navigating post-apocalyptic terrain, that structural integrity could literally be the difference between making it home and becoming a cautionary tale. Four-wheel drive Tundras are outrageously capable off-road machines. The TRD Pro and TRD Off-Road packages come with Bilstein shocks, skid plates protecting vital components, locking rear differentials, and crawl control that helps you navigate technical terrain even if you're not an expert. The suspension travel is generous. The approach and departure angles are aggressive, and the ground clearance means you're clearing obstacles that would high-center other trucks. But even the base four-wheel drive models are incredibly competent because Toyota understood that people who buy these trucks actually use them in challenging conditions. Let's discuss something that separates the Tundra from every other truck on this list: resale value that refuses to drop. Even high-mileage Tundras command premium prices because buyers know what they're getting. In a normal market, this might seem like a disadvantage when you're shopping, but think about it from a survival perspective. This truck holds value because it works. The market has already validated that these trucks are worth every penny. You're not taking a gamble on an unknown quantity. You're buying into proven excellence that millions of people have already verified. The interior space in Tundra Crewmax configurations is genuinely cavernous. We're talking about a backseat that can fit full-grown adults comfortably with room to spare. When you're using your truck as a mobile base, living quarters, or escape vehicle, that space becomes invaluable. You can sleep in the back seat during cold nights, store critical supplies within arm's reach, and maintain organization in ways that smaller trucks simply can't accommodate. The build quality inside is also notably superior. Switches that feel solid, materials that hold up to abuse, and an overall sense of durability that extends beyond just mechanical components. Towing capacity on the Tundra maxes out around 10,000 pounds depending on configuration, which means you can haul massive trailers, campers that serve as mobile bases, or equipment that becomes essential for long-term survival. The transmission is programmed intelligently for towing, the brakes are more than adequate for controlling heavy loads, and the cooling systems are robust enough to handle sustained towing in extreme conditions. This truck was designed for people who actually work their vehicles hard, and it shows in every aspect of the towing experience. Parts availability is excellent because Toyota backed this truck with their legendary reputation, which means dealerships stock components, the aftermarket is robust, and used parts from donor vehicles are available. The engine and transmission combinations are shared across multiple Toyota platforms, which expands your options even further. While it might not quite have the same junkyard ubiquity as an F-150, the parts you need are readily available when you need them. Fuel economy is reasonable considering what you're getting. The V8 returns somewhere between 13 to 17 miles per gallon depending on driving conditions and configuration. Yes, there are more efficient options on this list, but remember, you're getting bulletproof reliability, massive capability, and power that ensures you're never caught short when you need it most. That trade-off is absolutely worth it when the alternative is being stranded with an empty tank and no way forward. The Toyota Tundra sits at number 1 because it represents the ultimate balance of everything that matters for doomsday survival. It's reliable enough to trust your life to, capable enough to handle any terrain or challenge, powerful enough to never leave you wanting, and proven enough that there are no surprises waiting to ambush you. Yes, it costs more upfront, but when civilization collapses and your truck is the only thing standing between you and disaster, you'll understand why this investment was the smartest decision you ever made.
So there you have it. 7 budget trucks that'll keep you alive when everything else fails. From the underdog Mazda B3000 to the legendary Toyota Tundra, each of these machines brings something unique to your survival strategy. The best part? You don't need to spend a fortune to get started. Pick the truck that fits your budget, learn it inside and out, maintain it properly, and you'll have a vehicle that'll outlast whatever the future throws at you. Now, here's my challenge to you. Which truck would you choose for the apocalypse? Drop your answer in the comments below and tell me why. Are you team budget with the Mazda, or are you going all in with the Tundra? And if you think I missed a truck that absolutely deserves to be on this list, let me know. I love a good debate. If you found this video helpful, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our survival vehicle breakdowns, doomsday prep guides, and automotive deep dives. We've got tons more content coming your way, including off-road modifications, survival gear reviews, and real-world testing of these trucks in extreme conditions. Remember, hope for the best, prepare for the worst, and always drive something that refuses to quit. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next one.